Hey, and welcome to the Highlight Show. Really simple, I've put the chapters for each song in the description, along with the links to the artist's channel or their music. Remember to subscribe to all the artists featured and stick around, or you can skip to the end to see how you can be part of the show. Gender and Loathing, mixed by Eric Simey, written by Millennial Animal.
She want a black mirror with some alcohol, letting out from me like an animal between her thighs, where the lines lie between gender and loathing. That's love, play your role. Gender and loathing through it all. For love you fall. Gender and loathing, what's love? I don't know. She want a black mirror with some alcohol, letting out for me like an animal between her thighs, where the lines lie between gender and loathing. That's love, play your role. Gender and loathing through it all. For love you fall. Gender and loathing, what's love? I don't know. Oh, you can't deny what you asked for. You can't deny what you fought for. All she needs is a black mirror, and an alpha male like an animal between her thighs. Where the lines lie between gender and loathing. That's love, play your role. Gender and loathing through it all. For love we fall. Gender and longing for love no one knows. She want a black mirror with some alcohol, letting out for me like an animal between her thighs, where the lines lie between gender and loathing. Gender and loathing through it all. Gender and loathing. Gender and loathing through it all. Gender and loathing, that's love.
Millennial Animal, how are you?
I'm very good. Hopefully this is better.
It is a little bit better, yeah, I can hear you.
I don't know what's going on.
Don't worry
with
about it.
this.
The main thing is that we can hear you, we can have
Yeah.
that chat, which is always awesome. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Are you feeling
I'm
better?
still recovering from being a little sick, but you know, it'll get better.
I was hoping that you'd be okay because I didn't want you to. Oh, we might have Arlo Cam. Sorry, I'm just gonna see if I can bring up Arlo Cam. Oh no, he's gone. He's gone. I just seen the door opening behind me, and I thought, oh, that's it. That's the dog here. We'll say hi to him. So we've listened to a couple of your songs. I've decided that I'm going to try and stick to just asking the questions rather than rambling on that I have done in the past, which I'm now doing. So I thought I'll start off with a really easy one and say, can you remember the first song that you wrote and completed, and what was it about?
Oh, Andrew, that's not easy. Nah, I'm only messing. So I think I remember the name of it, and I think I could probably even play maybe some of the chords. And it was called Older. And what's even sillier about it is I think I wrote it when I was 22, so I wasn't exactly older, you know. But
Sorry.
yeah.
Are you seeing the chat there? Apparently you're just coming out of the left speaker. I don't know if you can sum or mono it.
Tell me chick chick chick. Left right.
It's still coming out of just the left.
I don't know what it's got.
If that's
Sorry,
the
better.
case, it's fine. It's not bother.
Ah, okay, then sounds. It's I don't know. I'm going through the same chain I did when we did the charity live stream. Like I don't know what's going on. So yeah.
like these setups are just like everything seems to work fine, and then the minute you go live, everything just starts. Like I managed to get my iPad linked to my computer, and like have a screen share, and I thought, great, I can separate out a little bit, and that's just that
Didn't
shut the
happen.
bed just before I started. I was like, do you know what? I'm just gonna
Yeah.
wing it. So sorry, you were saying about your first song that you wrote.
Yeah, and I don't think I recorded it, but yeah, it was called Older, and it was pretty much just a verse and a chorus, and it was nothing really good about it in the sense, well, compared to what I do now, but it was good enough to know, like, if I can do this, I can get better and I can keep doing. You know what I mean? It was like it was something where it was like, if I can do something this good, and I'd only been like playing guitar and writing for about maybe a year after that at that point. So, it was a good place to start. I think it gave me a bit of confidence, even though I hadn't really done anything like that before, writing wise. Yeah.
And had you played in bands or anything before that, or was that your first sort of foray into the music?
Um, it was a bit like on and off again. So basically, the year, the year between like primary school and high school, um, I just played footy. It was just, like every lad from Liverpool, just play footy, didn't do much else. And then this lad moved to Liverpool called Niall Kelly, and he played guitar, he was a skateboarder, stuff like that. And then I got to know him, and then by the time we got into high school, he started a band, and he was like, "Do you want to play bass?" And I think a lot of bass players start out kind of just like everyone's already playing guitar, drums. So yeah, I said yeah, and I basically just played the root note. Like, that's all I did. I didn't play bass, properly. But Niall he was self-taught, and he was already quite a good little, he was a solid guitar player. And the other two lads in the band, the drummer and the other guitar player, Charlie McCowan, and the drummer, Ollie Graham, I think they'd had quite a lot of lessons for a few years, so they were like, he was a solid drummer. Charlie was quite proficient in terms, like, like he wasn't just playing bar chords, you know what I mean? Like he was doing a lot more. And so that was when I was about 12, and then it like lasted about a year, maybe, yeah, year, a couple of months. But like we played the Cavern a couple of times, which people don't know is where the Beatles started playing when they came back from Hamburg. So that was like a big deal for us. And we went to a studio and recorded like 3 or 4 original songs, which weren't very good, but it was an experience, you know what I mean, for like being that young. But yeah, we played quite a few gigs as well, because a lot of the older bands, because we were playing like Black Sabbath and the Misfits and stuff like that, and we were only like 12, so I think the older lads and like their girlfriends and that thought we were like cute, these little 5 foot nothings on stage. Yeah, so, but that lasted for a little while, but then I didn't touch an instrument again until I was like 19, 20. So yeah.
Mr. Smith has just asked, is Crash rehearsal room still open?
Crash for here, I don't know. This is the thing, like we practiced in Charlie's basement, so we never needed rehearsal rooms. And the only rehearsal room I ever went to, I know these other two lads. Well, actually, Niall, who was in the band with me, and then this lad I got to know a few years later, Billy, who's a great drummer. They practiced around somewhere in Seaforth, but I don't know what the rehearsal rooms were called. And I mean, it's probably long before my time, Smithy. Yeah.
Uh, do you use the same process when you write and record your songs now?
Compared to what to when I
Well,
was a kid, or
just in general, do you have is every song that you write in a similar process, or do you have a different starting point?
so well. Um, it's strange because, like, I mean, well, talking about Smithy, like, that song, "Stuck on All Caps," that was written. The verse and the chorus was written in like 15, 20 minutes, and it was like stream of consciousness. Like it just happened, you know. And but then there's other songs where it slowly builds up over time. You know, I may have a chorus, I may have like, you know, maybe like start of a verse. And when I first started writing, I would write the music completely separate, and then the lyrics completely separate. And now it's more like I like to write, I like to play a set of chords over and over again. It's almost like a mantra. And then I'll either have a melody or maybe like a phrase or one word, and I'll just sing it over and over and over and over again while I'm playing guitar. And it's like a feedback loop. And then more lyrics will come out of it, maybe more melody, maybe a chord change, you know. And yeah, it's changed, but I think it was more like putting like jigsaw puzzles together when I first started. So it kind of sounded a little bit. It sounded more disjointed. Like I don't think anyone here's like heard the first album I put out because it's terrible and I took it off the internet. But yeah, if you listen to that, you can tell. And but like that, the first album is basically like it's like a time capsule of me like learning to play drums, learning to sing, learning to songwrite, and learning to record, learning to mix. You know, so it lacks in a lot of areas, but you know, I think if you start to solidify how you write songs in a certain way, you'll see a lot of improvements. But on the other side, you want to kind of change it up a bit. So I
Yeah.
don't always just sit down with the acoustic guitar and do stuff. You know, sometimes I'll record something and listen to it back, or sometimes I'll be playing drums and I'll be singing along something. You know what I mean? I try change it up a little bit, but most of it comes down to just me and acoustic guitar, pretty much. Thanks, Smithy.
I'm just saying. So, sorry, just looking at my questions. I'm trying to stick
It's
to the
alright.
questions.
Take your time, lad. Take your time.
What's been your biggest struggle in your songwriting?
Um, that's a good question. You know, because I just write songs so easily. You know what I mean? Like,
They just fall out of me. I'm just walking down the street and that's it.
yeah,
It's in there. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I was walking down the street the other day, and the lad was like, "You dropped something there, mate," and it was a full song. You know what I mean? I didn't have to do anything about it. But
Have you seen that?
yeah. So I think the thing I've struggled with most is probably me singing and trying to find like because I can hear the melodies in my head, but it's getting it out and being able to flesh it out. I'd say that's probably the most difficult um, thing for me. But also just I think about 2 years ago I started being a lot more honest with myself about what I was doing, rather than just relying on like, oh well, music's subjective, like it's fine, like whatever I do is great, you know. Started actually being a little bit more critical, and that I guess that was difficult, you know. Saying to listening back to what you've made, like giving yourself a whole like 6 months and being like, I don't like it, it's not good enough, you know what I mean? I think that was pretty difficult. But in terms of just technical issues, it's probably singing for sure and getting the melodies out the way I could hear them in my head.
No, singing is tough. It's
Yeah.
it's definitely a tough one. Well, we'll have a listen to another one of your songs, and I can chat to you in the green room, and I'll get a couple of things sorted out. We'll have a listen to one of your songs, and then we'll pop back to the chat.
Sure thing.
Is there anything that you like? I mean, you're giving me sort of like a wee playlist here. We've got one called The Seventh Servant. What's that one about?
Oh, that's so that's the one I sent in, and Trey asked me to work on it for me. And that's basically um, if anyone's ever read The Brothers Grimm, um, basically they came up with a lot of the what we now know as like classical fairy tales, which were a lot more nightmarish when they wrote them. And there's a short story called The Six Servants, and it's basically about this prince who's trying to impress a princess, and basically he wants a hand in marriage, but the queen basically asks impossible tasks of everyone who tries to take a hand in marriage. So I wrote it from the perspective of like a seventh servant who basically asks impossible tasks of her, and that's where the lyrical idea came from.
Cool. That's a cool idea. Okay, we will
it was
hit
fun.
play and we will jump on to that screen.
Tell you a story. If I tell you a story of the greatest lie I ever told, would you believe me when I say I'm 1,000 years old? But I'm not sure of the greatest kingdom no one ever saw, and it could all be yours. Tell you a story. If you can love me like the cheapest whore I ever bought, if you can stay by my side and at the same time leave me alone. Tell you a story. Stay by my side but leave me alone. Stay by my side but leave me alone. Tell you a story. If I tell you a story of the greatest lie I ever told, would you believe a gallon of blood from a stone? Would you give me 10 sons 100 feet tall and one daughter every spring, summer and fall? Not at all. So give yourself to me, oh, and at the same time, not at all. Tell you a story. Stay by my side, but leave me alone. Stay by my side, but leave me alone. Stay by my side, but leave me alone. Tell you a story.
Yeah, very cool indeed. I like that one. I remember, yeah, Che was doing the. That was the one that he was trying to do the production on, eh?
What's the best form of escapism?
Escapism, getting the fuck away from adverts. That's where. That's
SoundCloud,
right.
yeah, I'm not a member of SoundCloud, so.
Yeah, me either. Yeah, it's the one where I sent it in a couple of revisions of it, and then I think he was like frustrated with it not being the way, you know what I mean? He was like, it's almost there, kind of thing. And then he did like a one-off stream, because I think he was trying to get it out there, you know, that like he was gonna do this as like a service. So I think he used me as a little bit of a, you know, test animal, you know. Yeah.
So, how do you think that your songwriting process has developed over the last number of years? Even maybe not from when you started, but even just in the last 2-3 years, what do you think has changed?
I think I used to get obsessed with there would be an idea, like whether it was a riff or a chord progression or just like a vibe, and I'd get so obsessed with that I'd forget about the song. You know what I mean? I'd forget about, okay, like it needs to change. It needs to change. There needs to be some modulation. You know, some chord change, something that carries the listener along. And I think understanding how that works and trying to do that the most I can, I think that's probably how it's changed. Because I was basically just doing like ambitious krautrock, you know what I mean, or just something to like drone out to, you know what I mean. It was like it was all vibe, no substance. And then also as well, just learning about like where my voice sits best, you know what I mean? Because I know I'm limited there, like so. You know, learning about okay, and not even it being a specific key, more about just like, you know, if I'm sitting down and playing it in a certain key, whatever the, you know, probably a handful of keys that are best for me. And I think instead of trying to work out like, well, what key is it and what's best for me, just kind of it being like a feeling in terms of like, you know, feeling like being able to open up properly, like not in an emotional way, like a physical way, like being able to
Mm-hmm.
sing properly. So I think that's been a big learning curve for me as well, for sure. Um, yeah, I'd say that's yeah, probably the biggest thing. Being more honest.
Do you follow Chris Leapy at all? Do you follow his
I've
channel?
seen a I've seen a couple of his videos on on Kurt, and he's done a couple on Jeff Buckley,
Yeah,
because I love
yeah.
Jeff Buckley. So yeah,
No,
yeah.
his channel's great. His course is excellent, and yeah, about
Have you
finding that.
taken it? Yeah,
Yeah, I got his course. I like most things, you get what you put into it,
yeah.
and it's been fantastic for me. But I really want to structure myself and do it properly, like go through the different stages and start. What I tend to do with a lot of courses is I'll watch them all first and then kind of pick and choose which bits I
Uh,
want to do.
Rather than going from A B C.
Yeah, but what he actually does with his course is that the usually the next part's not released until you're sort of 2 weeks through. So weeks 3 and 4 don't get open
That's good.
till. But I just waited until because they automatically open up. So I just ended up waiting. But it's a great course and it's definitely worth checking out. Along with a lot of his videos, even just watching them, you just are more conscious of maybe what your body's doing. From what you were saying, he talks about that a lot. Is just being aware of how you're feeling when you're singing, not emotionally but physically. Like if you're feeling the
Yeah.
tension there, or where if you're
Back
feeling the
off.
tension in your throat, or if it's, as he says, your put muscles, like for the compression and the where all the power comes from. So definitely
Yeah.
worth checking out. And what would you say are your or who and what would you say are your main influences for your songwriting?
Um, I think anyone who cares about the song more than like how fast they can shred. You know what I mean? Like, cause basically I'm not against that. You know what I mean? I love Hendrix like everyone else. You know what I mean? You know it, it always impresses me, and obviously, and it's you can access different musical emotions with that stuff. Um, but I started playing guitar because of Bob Dylan, basically. Like my dad gave me a Don't Look Back, which is a great documentary. Everyone should watch it if they haven't. And that thing skips all over the place if you try to watch it now, because I watch it every night, watch all the performances back, and all I want to do is play acoustic guitar. Um, and so I'd say probably Dylan in terms of getting me to do it, and then people like Elliott Smith. Elliott Smith always really, because he's like a one man Beatle. Like he can do everything the Beatles do, but
Mm-hmm.
just himself in the studio, and he's a great songwriter as well. Um, yeah, there's a guy. He makes music under the title Sun Kill Moon. Um, and those albums he did under Sun Kill Moon were really big for me lyrically. Modest Mouse were big. The Smiths, like songwriters, Roy Orbison, you know, even like Bing Crosby. I love Bing Crosby. You know what I mean, especially at Christmas time.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, pretty much anyone who wants to save the song rather than show off what they can do. Even though I do appreciate that, I do appreciate virtuosos for sure.
It's always cool to see them, but I think certainly if you're a guitarist that's more into that than singing. I think a lot of guitarists, because they don't feel that they can sing or they've not got the
Yeah,
confidence to sing, they love the instrumental guitars because they're kind of thinking, well, that's something I might be able to do because I don't think I've got a strong enough voice, so I'll just
yeah,
get as good as I can on this instrument.
yeah. You're definitely right there. Because if you can't express yourself with your voice, you want to express yourself with your instrument. You know what I mean? And honestly, I did. Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Because like when I first started writing, it was like I wanted to come up with the coolest guitar stuff I could come up with because I knew I couldn't really get it out vocally yet. So yeah, I think that's a really good point for sure.
I mean, it's definitely one of the. I always said to people, I said, I'm not a good enough songwriter to be a bad singer, and I'm not a good enough singer to be a bad songwriter. So that was how I kind of looked at it. So I stuck to a lot of instrumental stuff, but I also didn't have the time. Well, not the time. I didn't have the patience to sit to get to the level of shredding that is required. And I've got a lot of respect for people who can do it because I know how much time and effort it is required to do that. I think now it's so many of them, it's very difficult to, like, 10, 15 years ago, you could stand out in that
Yeah,
instrumental guitar, but now there's just, like, everybody's just getting insane
yeah.
with what they're
Well, I mean, you
doing.
you look at like Tim Henson, people like
Yeah.
that. Like, I mean, that to me, that is what happens when somebody grows up learning everything on YouTube and really wants to be a virtuoso. You know what I mean? Because like I grew up learning the same way he did, but I didn't want to do that. But obviously he has the skill as well. But like because it's you see it all. You see all everything that has came before him. You see it all in his style. Even like the when I remember like 4 years ago, there was like this thing of everybody watching like guitar players who don't look crazy tapping in like open tunings and all that stuff. You see all that in his playing and
Yeah.
everything. It's impressive. You know?
It is when you see it, and again, what I've definitely seen in that kind of instrumental style and genre and guitar, it is still the best that kind of become the sort of top because they not only are ridiculously talented and hardworking at learning and being able to develop their technical skills, but they also compose really interesting pieces that have like that do tell a story, that do have a beginning, middle, and end, and they don't just like they repeat, but they don't repeat, and it's kind of cool. I I don't think I could listen to a whole album, but when one comes on, it's always kind of like, yeah, that's quite cool.
Yeah. Well, what they can do that other like like how many streams do you go in and you hear a guy playing some gent thing and then some weird like angular melody underneath it. It's like you're not developing the idea. Tim Henson can develop an idea. You know, my dad is a big Frank Zappa fan,
Mhm.
and that's just never like hit me. But what Zappa can do is develop an idea. I mean, there's a few. I like the stuff he did with Captain Beefheart personally. Like in terms of if I was going to listen to Zappa, that would be what I'd listen to. But all those guys who are great virtuoso players, they can really tell a story, and the ones that start to lose me are the ones that are just they're a little bit too on the technically obsessed side, for sure. Because to me, Hendrix. That's why Hendrix. Everyone loves Hendrix. Well, not everyone loves Hendrix, but that's why people who aren't virtuoso guitarists, or even people who aren't musicians, can love Hendrix because he cared about the song. Yeah, he wanted to be in, in the band of Gypsies and just jam and let his hair down. You know what I mean? But when he wanted to write a song, he could really tell a story, and he would use his guitar as a tool in a box of many to get that across, for sure.
I think this is the best comment ever. You're not ignorant at all. Hell, I didn't know what gent was until I kind of started watching Trey's streams. I'd heard the term, but I didn't, and I'm still not even sure what it is. I know that the band Periphery apparently are the ones that it was the noise that the guitar made on that low tuning thing.
Yeah.
I believe was the um they sort of discovered. And like any kind of style of music, there's some really cool stuff there, but sometimes, yeah, you'll get the leaders, the ones that start it, that develop it. Then you'll get the few that will take it to the next level, and then you'll get everybody else, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know that you're a fan of UFC and MMA, and you see that with the fighters. You think about when the UFC first started, and obviously, like, I mean, you can't deny Chuck Liddell, Randy Couture were amazing, but compared to what was coming now, it's just leaps and bounds and levels and levels and levels. And again, it's kids growing up watching and following those people, and that's what's happening with guitar instrumental music. And I think to an extent, probably most styles of music, like there's always the ones that sort of, but they also, there's that marketing side that a lot of, I think, musicians lack, because they see it as a dirty word. They see marketing and selling yourself as a dirty thing to do because you're automatically a sellout, which I know when I was younger I kind of thought that way, but now I think to myself, well, if you like your stuff and you want people to hear it, then talk about it. Just don't be an egotistical wanker.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you like that's the problem is finding that balancing. You talk about UFC. A lot of people came to watch the UFC and mixed martial arts in general because of Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
Now, Conor had that egotistical um, persona, but he also had a lot of skill to back it up.
Mm.
Now, where you want to say where his skill lies, all that stuff, how good is he, how good was he, all that stuff, is up for debate. But you get somebody like, and look, I'm from Liverpool, so I love the lads, Paddy Pimblett.
Mm-hmm.
He comes along and he's all attitude, and it seems like he's got a long way to go,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of skill. Now, in music, I don't really think you have that same problem, but you have people where it's like, they look at their favorite musician and they almost just like wear a skin suit of them.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like, even down to the way they dress. And it's fine if you like that. If you like the look, go for it. But even with the music and everything, it's like it's just pure imitation. Like, I've always wanted to try and do things at least a little bit differently, or be limited. Use my limitations to make something. Like, if I go, oh, I like that song, I want to do something like it. I'll let my limitations kind of stand out like a sore thumb. So then that becomes what I like to think of as originality, for sure. So it's like it's finding the balance. And you're right, it happens with every genre. You know what I mean? And I think that's what's so good about living, or trying to make music today, is you don't subcultures come and go so fast because of how fast the internet moves. Like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, everyone was talking about like Mac DeMarco and this whole kind of like indie explosion again. And now, like, people don't really talk about him. I still listen to his albums. I think they're great, but it's not really. It used to be a generational thing. Now it's like it's just a micro genre, pops up, goes away, and so in a way it's good because you do get pretenders, but you don't get as many, and you don't get them kind of lingering around, especially in the mainstream, kind of blocking up the pipes for new talent that are trying to do something, something different for sure.
Mr. Smith asked, have you got cans that you can put on? Apparently, I'm bouncing back maybe from your audio.
I didn't know your name was Andrea.
Well, depending on what day of the
You got
week it
something
is.
to tell us?
I'm not going to say anything that'll get me cancelled.
Yeah, we got to be careful. Is that I'm sure that'll probably be better now.
Perfect. And talking of, obviously, subgenres and what you were saying there, how's the community of songwriters and channels on YouTube and things help with your songwriting?
I think Trey's community's probably had the most impact. But I think, whether it's like Fam, yourself, Audio Bros, I have tried sending stuff into Bobby Everything, but yeah, it's a little bit late for me that. But especially with like how long you got to wait, and that's fine. It's great that he's that successful that people have to wait that long. But I think just having, because I think every it kind of goes back to what we were saying about the whole selling out thing. Like everyone has this thing of like, you hear a lot of artists say, "Oh, I only write it for myself. It's my music. I don't care if anyone likes it." When in reality, it's like, I was talking about Bob Dylan. The stories of Bob Dylan early on in his career, coming out after a show saying, "Is there anyone here to see me?" He wanted that affirmation. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, I think having a place to send your music in to actually get some feedback instead of being in a complete vacuum is really big, and like that's why I'd encourage anyone to send stuff in, because it's you can kind of get lost in what you're doing, and I think I've been guilty of that for sure. So I think that's been a big thing, just seeing people's reaction, and especially like if you think about it, a lot of these streams, there's only really a handful. There's three. There's yours, there's Audio Bros, and then there's Trey's, which actually has other stuff on than just like, basically like hip hop. And there's nothing wrong with hip hop. I stopped playing music because I was obsessed with skateboarding, and like hanging out in a skate shop, I learned a lot about like 90s hip hop, and I love it to this day. But because I think it lacks in the variety in terms of what underground artists are trying to do in it. You have people like Kendrick Lamar, people like that who are doing like really interesting stuff with it today. But if you look at the underground, it's kind of like metal. It's very samey, and I think a lot of those live streams have that problem, and that's why I like yours. I like Audio Bros. I like Trey's because I can actually. There's probably going to be some songs that I'm going to like, which aren't just by, people I know, like yourself or like Mr. Smith, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
No,
I think that's...
I completely... so I completely agree with what you're saying about the submissions that go in, and you realise it's like, okay, it's just not metal and rock that all can sound the same. It's like other genres have that same sort of issue. And I love all these streams because I mean it's really where I get now most of my music listening from, whether it's more famous bands that I've heard through communities, through Discord, things like that, or it's just listening back to the streams, because a lot of the time they're done from America, so I'll not be up to watch them, but I'll put them on and just when I'm walking the dog, and it's great to to hear everybody's, and it's great to hear improvements as well. It's great to sort of see people develop their sound, develop own their own unique sound while getting better at the technical side. I mean, an example of that I would say would be Alex from Stream, who, I mean, I've been listening back to older stuff, and a lot of the stuff that he was sending in was kind of loop based and things, and then he started like developing and experimenting. But he always had, there was always that Alex Rooney sound. I could always tell it was an Alex Rooney composition. Like, even if it was, there were certain things that he did that was like, oh, that's one of Alex's compositions, and I know that, and I think that it's cool to see that in that kind of style of soundtrack. And then obviously Sarushi does that kind of soundtrack, and him and Alex are working together on their ambient stuff, which is really cool. And the collaborations that have developed across these communities are brilliant. I know that Mr. Smith was talking about that with Jade, about how he loves music, and he loves just like the fact that he can work with people. And what I thought he said that was really interesting was about the fact that working with people online takes a lot of the ego out of it. It gives people the time to complete their own parts and things. You're not stuck in a room with people going, I want to play this bit over your bit, and this song's all about me, kind of thing. And
yeah,
I think that's where these communities have been really good.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's the same with when I've sent stuff to Mr. Smith myself. The song that I've been working on recently, Become Blue. You know, I think my ego problem is I want to play everything, because that was something I always prided myself on, was like, I play everything on this. Like, that's something that I always was. I'm still proud of it, but you know, and to kind of let that go and to see what Mr. Smith's gonna do with it. And I mean, even when I had Gender and Loathing mixed by Eric, it was even just like letting that go to have somebody mix all that stuff was a bit difficult at first, you know what I mean? Because I'm so used to just being like, maybe I'm just like a control freak, you know?
I don't think it's that. I think that if you've been songwriting or been a musician, and like yourself, a multi-instrumentalist, multi-instrument musician, like you can obviously play several different things,
I'm lucky.
to delegate to somebody else. Like for me, I can't play the drums, so to me, handing off the drums to somebody is a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But I probably wouldn't hand off any guitar parts unless I'd written a song that I really wanted a massive shreddy solo. And the good thing is, I now know through Trace community, there's a couple of people that I would probably hit up on that, because I know they would play something that would suit the song and also would sound fucking awesome.
Yeah,
but sure. I'm kind of similar, like handing off stuff, even to an extent now, vocals, not because because I'm so desperate to get better at vocals, I don't want to give myself the excuse to let somebody else do it for me.
I see. Yeah.
That's kind of, I mean, I'd love other people to do harmonies and things, but again, that's maybe an ego part of me, or it's a determination that I feel like I'm getting closer and closer to how, when I'm writing songs, that they're starting to sound like they're in my head when they're sort of more complete.
Yeah.
And my voice is getting stronger, which is great, but it's still
Definitely
got a long way to go, and I'm fine with that. But that, I think, also comes with age, because I know 20 years ago I would have been like, this is all me. And it is nice to sort of say I wrote, recorded, mixed, mastered, I did everything. It's like, because it is impressive, but I think it's only impressive when it sounds good. Because I know from submissions I sent to Che, I was like, I mixed and mastered, and then Arsina's reaction and stuff. That I was like, all right, okay, yeah, I'm not very good at that. Shit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, but you're right. I think because songwriting is it's basically it's problem solving, and I think when you are honest with yourself, like, what am I good at, what am I not good at, you realize, like, the solutions to the problem, i.e. the song being at the best. It's like you got to understand, like, there's got to be some trade-offs there. You know what I mean? It's like there aren't really, like, I think this'll be a bit heady, but Thomas Sowell said, there's no solutions, only trade-offs, something like that. And I think that's when it comes to collaborating with people, that's for sure. Because it's like, yeah, you can spend, like, you could do like 100 different demos of a song trying to get something right, trying to solve a problem. But if you can just send it to Smitty, who you know is going to do a good job on the drums, it's like, that's a trade-off, but it's going to solve it. You know what I mean?
I think
that analogy works.
No, that's a perfect analogy, and I think ego is one of those essential things that you need it to put yourself out there, to have, I guess, like, not the confidence as such, but the sort of want to put yourself out there for people to hear your stuff, but not let it drive you so much that you don't want anybody to help, or if anybody does give you critical feedback, whether it's like good critical feedback, I should say, not just but shite.
Yeah.
But good critical feedback, not getting so upset by it that you don't progress and get better. And
Yeah.
I think that obviously the regulars in Trey's stream know what you're going to get with Trey. If you're new or you're maybe sitting there, you've sort of come in, you thought, what? Like, because obviously the main thing is, like, who are you to say that song's
It's a bit
crap?
jarring.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, I admit when I first sort of watched Trey, I thought, oh, that's. I was like, oh, like. But again, you only get triggered if you think the same way. If you think that same, like, if somebody says something about my song, it's something that I already know that I don't like about the song. So when they point it out, it's like, I fucking know that, but don't point it out to me.
Yeah, you get an emotional reaction
yeah.
because you know it yourself. Yeah, for sure.
So,
yeah.
And obviously it's lovely when people say nice things, and when I think you can tell when it's a genuinely nice comment and it's a genuine belief from the person, to when it's just they've not really got anything or anything that they want to say, they might not. So they don't say anything at all, or they're just like, yeah, great.
Yeah.
Which is often what happens when you play your songs to your friends.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I stopped sending stuff to friends. I mean, my mate Bill, who plays drums, I've sent him some stuff, and because he was saying that he listened to the first album, because I hadn't spoke to him and a couple of the other lads for like a few years, and they got back in touch during the pandemic, and they were like, "Oh, we listened to that album." I was like, "Oh, it's terrible. Listen to this." You know what I mean? It was like, this is way better. It was more like that. But yeah, I think you're right about the advice, but also as well, I think this might just be me, but I've noticed in a lot of these streams, if I know the person and they're putting out music and they're putting themselves out there, and they say something about my song, I'm like, I take it on board, because I know that they've gone through the same process. They know what they're doing when it comes to whether it's songwriting, playing guitar, singing, mixing, whatever it is. So I take it on board, and especially with Trey, I take it on board. And any of people who I know from the community, I take it on board. But there's been a lot I've seen recently of, I guess you would call them like backseat producers or something. You know what I mean? Because they sit there. Like I sent Become Blue into Trey.
Yeah.
And there was somebody, I don't know who it was, but they were going, you writing in the chat like, you need real cymbals. you should get a real drummer to play on this, and I'm going, I played this, like I drummed on this. Like he's like, do you only have one crash cymbal? I was like, no, I have two. But when you're in an actual drum kit, you have to use it, in a certain way. You can't, like, obviously depending on your skill level. But the reason you only hear that crashing that side for that long is because I'm doing something with the hi hat and the snare. When I open up, I use the other crash with the,
Mm.
you know what I mean, or use the ride cymbal, whatever. And I see a lot of that. So it's like I would say to people like, these streams are great, but don't take all the advice to heart, and kind of learn to see what you could take advice. Somebody could tell you that wearing a tinfoil hat is going to keep you from getting your brain fried from whatever. That is technically advice, but it's not good advice, is it? Because of who it's coming from.
Mm.
So it's like, take notice of who is giving you the advice, is what I would say. And
No,
that goes for me as well. Don't just take my advice because I'm sitting here with guitars in the background. You know what I mean?
yeah, it's so true, and I notice it as well in the comments, and it's kind of like regurgitated stuff that they've heard somebody else say or seen somebody else say. I mean, I'll never really critique anybody's production. I don't really like critiquing their songwriting because I'm still very new to it, but I also have a lot of musical experience. I've got 26 years of guitar playing. I've got uh, 2.5 years of college study, and I've also got over 12 years of playing in bands. So I do have a fair bit of experience, but I also am very new to writing complete songs.
Yeah,
So if somebody submits something and I'm giving feedback, at the end of the day, all it is it's an opinion, and it's an
yeah,
opinion of what that person feels that they would like, unless they are a music producer or like somebody who maybe knows the industry or things like that. And obviously that's why Trey says to people is like, go and find a producer and
yeah.
find a producer of the genre of music that you're writing, contact them, find out how much they charge, and then go and do that. And
Oh
definitely
yeah,
one of the things that I've learned is, and I know I would have released a lot more of my songs a lot earlier, and a lot of the stuff that I send in as demos as actual releases on Spotify, if I'd not been sort of going, oh wait a minute, maybe I shouldn't, because all these people are sort of saying that's not ready for Spotify or like a
yeah.
Bandcamp release or an actual release. And I think it's great that there's so many songs that are getting released, and I have anything against anybody who is releasing stuff that probably isn't ready to be released because that's what they want to do. But
Mm,
hopefully that if they do submit something, there's been a few I think on the Audio Brothers podcast that have been, you wouldn't say that they were Spotify ready, and Eric and Charles have obviously said, look, this isn't ready to be out there. Now hopefully that person will go, okay, I'll maybe take that down and then send in stuff and then get it to a point where you could maybe send it to Eric and Charles, who clearly know what they're doing with genres of music and styles, to make your song stand out. And then it's the whole other side of things, is marketing it right, and um, doing all the evil side of things that, or the side that people don't like to do, where you do kind of have to big yourself up. And a fine example of how good that can work for you when you've got the songs to back it up, and I guess in a Conor McGregor kind of style of thing, is I would say Ren is like somebody who's done
yeah,
that. He has always been very regular, like consistent on Instagram. He's very engaging. He will, like, I mean, he replies to my messages and stuff like that. Now he's just had nearly, well, over 3 million streams on his song Higher, and he's had reaction now from Justin Hawkins, and
yeah. I saw that. Yeah,
Billy Bragg was saying that it was a great song, and I love that because I remember when I first heard Jenny's Tale, I was like, this, like, for me, I think he's one of the best lyricists of a generation. That's like, I think that this the variety of styles of songs he can write and his musical ability and his vocal ability, technical wise, is right up there. Probably was one of my favorite kind of musicians that, to me, I feel like can do anything. And I know, and it's seen other people in the industry and other musicians who recognize that. It was like, yeah, this guy's something else. You might not like his stuff. You might not like the kind of hip hop stuff or even his acoustic kind of stuff, but you can't deny he writes a damn good song. But he's also
you can't.
built that up himself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is hard to balance the two things, but like you said before, like if you put a lot of time into something and you want people to hear it, like there's no other way to go about it really. You've got to put yourself out there. Um, it's not how it used to be. You can't just send demos to labels and play live and hopefully build things up in that. You can in a certain sense, but you need to utilize. If you don't utilize social media, you're going to be shooting yourself in the foot. And I mean, talking lyrics with Ren, I'm not familiar with a lot of his stuff, but that not the latest one, the song before it.
Oh, the high end with the when he had the two parts, and he obviously went a bit meta.
Yeah, well, he did something that is like a filmmaking trick, which is breaking the third wall.
Yeah,
where he acknowledged, like, people had already done that kind of. I mean, you go right back to like Biggie Smalls. He did it. Can't remember the track. I think it might be Who Shot You, and it's like he's using two voices and they're interacting with each other, and Ren basically he breaks the third wall like 3 times in like one verse. I was like, okay, yeah, that's skillful, and that they're the things you need to learn. You know what I mean? Because you hear a lot of lyrics and they're very, today I went to the shop and then I did it, and and it's, you can't do that. You listen to Day in a Life by the Beatles. Woke up, got out of bed, dragged the comb across my head. Like, that's very descriptive, but it fits the song. So it's like, it's a tough one.
I mean, I love A Day in the Life, but again, with A Day in the Life, what works with that, I think it's a combination, because it is quite. I mean, I can name the chords, but they're interesting chords that are behind it. The melody itself is an interesting one. It's not like it's got the ebb and flow, and then it's got that total random bit where the I woke up, got out of bed comes in, and it's such a jarring. I'm going to use the word juxtaposition. I don't know if that's right, but to the verses, to the verses. So yeah, and the Beatles are obviously amazing songwriters as well. And they had some terrible songs, but they had some, they had the majority of them. And again, there'll be songs that we will never hear the light of day. And I only started watching the documentary about it. I need to finish it because, again, it was really interesting seeing them all kind of working together and coming up with stuff that they did on 13 Floors in the Chat. But
13 floors.
It's 13 floors? Oh, no.
13 floors.
Bloody Aussies are here now. We're in trouble. Hello, Rook. Right, we'll have another listen to one of your songs, and then I'm going to I've got some quick fire questions, which are always fun.
Ooh,
so
keep me on my toes, Andrew.
Yeah, I know. I thought it'd be fun to do. So we'll have a listen to another one of your songs. We'll do some quick fire questions, and then we'll jump into some of the submissions, and we'll carry on to sort of chatting if that's all cool with everybody watching and yourself. Perfect. I will just bring up a song.
Better be.
What's going on with it?
By the way, are all those tracks I sent you available?
Well, they were. Let's just right. I don't know if it's just. I'll just do it this way. I'll just type in your name and find the stuff that you've got on. So, well, actually, you were talking about "Become Blue," so let's put that on, because that is a really nice song, and I think when you were saying and talking about it, it's a nice one. We can have a wee chat about that as well. So
sure.
Well, why is that not playing? I am following. doesn't seem to. I don't know if it's not letting me because I'm not on Pro. That shouldn't be. Or maybe I've got to.
Is it a book?
Yeah. Let me just play the
Is
advert.
it a book? Is it a plane?
This
plane bus?
This chat is sponsored by me. If anybody wants their social media done, if they own an opticians or if they own a local business, contact me at Coffee Specs and Media for all your social media, photograph, video editing needs.
There we go. And that's how you plug yourself without shame.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear shameless plug anymore. No more shame.
No, that's a good point. No more shameless plugs. Right.
It should just be without shame. Just plug what you're doing.
It's that thing of not wanting to. You feel like you're upsetting the status quo by sort of standing out there, but you kind of got to. And generally, the people that are against it are people that are too scared to do it themselves. So
yeah, and let's face it, that's the majority of people. So if you really want to be like, you know, counterculture and punk, like tell those like old school punks to fuck off.
Exactly. Right. Let's give this a go. It should work now.
Okie doke.
Come on. Say play.
There we go.
All the things you know is all you'll ever be, but all you do has become blue, unable to see silver and gold, yellow and green. Knowledge is key, all you ever need, all you know will float your boat home. The things you know is all you'll ever be, but all you do has become blue, unable to see silver and gold, yellow and green. Knowledge is key, all you ever need, all you know will lock up your home. Their plastic Holy Spirit, it fades away, it fades away. Plastic Holy Trinity, it fades away. All the things you know is all you'll ever be, but all you do has become blue, unable to see silver and gold, yellow and green. Knowledge is key, all you ever need, all you know will lock up your home.
Excellent. So is that the you've had another mix at it?
Sorry, say again.
Sorry, have you had another? I think that said it was the third mix. I think the last one I heard was your second mix.
Yeah, mix number 3, final blah blah.
Underscore dash.
Final. Like,
Final.
yeah. Basically, um, so I mixed it like really quick, and then I sent it in for Eric and Charles to listen to on the Audio Bros podcast. And they was talking about the kick, and I was like, you know what, they're right, because I haven't really listened to it again since I mixed it, and the kick just sounded over slappy, really hollow. So I decided to mix it again. And it was lacking a bit of low end as well. So, but it's a demo as well, so it needs a lot of work anyway,
No,
especially vocally.
It's a great song though, and it's great to sort of see how songs develop, and again from feedback, from things that you might not consider, and that's the reason why we send them in. We like to see that we're at least kind of on the right path with people that we trust, and why we send them into places like CHIT and Audio Brothers and things. And then if you've got a song that you're just kind of wanting to share and you're not wanting feedback, then you can still send it in and just say, look, I'm not really wanting feedback. This is out there. Just enjoy the song and hopefully you'll like it, kind of thing.
Oh yeah, for sure. You can
Okay.
do a lot of stuff with that. Yeah.
Right, we'll do some quick fire questions. And then we'll listen to some song submissions, and we will finish off Mr. Smith with Gender and Loathing as a song as we fade out into the night. So get yourself ready, Millennial Animal.
I am ready.
First one that comes to your head: guitar or bass? You're not thinking.
Guitar.
Drums or vocals?
Drums.
Blues or prog?
Blues.
Acoustic or electric?
Acoustic.
Chorus or verse?
Chorus. Don't bore us.
Intro or bridge?
Bridge.
Rap or metal?
Metal.
Oh, and finally, this question was generated. I use an app called Captions, which obviously is good for subtitles and things, but it's also got an AI generator, and I asked it to give me a silly question to ask the songwriter, and this is the question that I came up with, which is, would you rather write a song about a hippopotamus or a graceful swan?
A graceful swan, because those things are vicious. It's great. It's there's a bit of juxtaposition there. It's graceful, but it'll take your finger off. Yeah.
It's an oxymoron, an oxymore swan. No, sorry. Yeah. That's it. Interview over. Perfect. Right. Let's get up some song submissions while doing that. I can relax a little bit now. Thank you very much, Millennial Animal, for answering the questions so fully. And it's when we talk about feedback, I obviously editing these down, I get to see all the things and filler words. Myself and Juicebox were talking about this. It was like talking about filler words.
Like.
So basically,
you know what I mean? Yeah. I can't really get rid of that because I'm Scouse. That's just how.
All right, mate. No, But the funny thing is, now I'm very conscious of it, and I'm trying to not do it because it says that you're better to pause and have a little bit of silence. Somebody that I noticed who's very good at not using filler words and uses silence as a as can't think of the fucking substitute. That's the word. Substitute for a filler word is Jocko Willink. He's like, if you listen to his, like when he talks, he's very precise about what he says. There's little pauses.
Yeah.
And I really like that because I get overexcited and nervous, so I start rambling. Hence the hands go everywhere. But that's just, again, that's going to come with time, and the more of this I do, hopefully I get better at it. And
yeah, you'll get better. I think you're right. But the thing about Jocko you got to remember is that guy is a tank and could kill like a room of people with his bare hands. So he doesn't have people interrupting him, and I think that we use filler words so we don't get interrupted, because people hear silence and they want to jump and say what they want to say, and I don't think that happens with Jocko. You know what I mean?
It's like, oh my
Jocko.
god, this guy is scary. I liked what 13 Flaws says. Us Aussies just used fucking instead of nums. You fucking yeah, fucking fuck.
He's a guy. What is it? No. What they use cunt, but they say something before it. That's like, what do they say?
Oh, he's a guy cunt. No.
Yeah, great or something like
Yeah.
I can't remember what it is. I'm sure the Flaws will tell us.
I remember I used to work in a petrol station, and again, talking of the word cunt and how in Scotland and Australia, or in the UK and Australia, it's not deemed as as offensive. It's almost like a bit of a compliment kind of thing.
It's a term of endearment.
I remember I was working in the petrol station, and this guy came in. He was with his mates, and they bought their fuel and that, and he was just like, "Fucking hell, you're a big cunt, aren't you?" I was like, "Yes."
Yeah.
It's miserable. Miserable cunt. I don't get monetized for YouTube anyway, so I can swear as much as I bloody want.
Once you get that monetization, though, we've got to pull back.
Yeah. Urban's put cunt Dracula. On that's just reminded me of a little joke that I've seen on Facebook about somebody who says, "What's your favourite vampire?" And it's like the Count from Sesame Street, and it's like, he doesn't count. Oh, I sure he does.
Oh my god! I can't. If somebody told me that was a meme on Facebook, I'd be like, yeah, it definitely came from Facebook. Definitely.
Okay, I'm going to bring up the Discord, and in fact, no, we're going to start off with the form submissions. The Google form submissions. I know I got a couple of them, so I'm going to find that.
Okie doke.
Oh, I need to scroll to the top. Google Forms.
Oh yeah, I just realised Eric put stars over the C words. Typical American.
Always been nice.
Yeah, goodbye everybody. And nice. I didn't see you, Megan, but you got to see me, so I guess one of us is going home happy. Thanks for everyone turning up. It was nice seeing everybody.
Thanks everybody for tuning in and watching, and I'll be back next week, hopefully with my friend Charlie, who releases her own stuff under her band name Euphoria. You've heard a couple of her tracks I've played, so she's going to be joining me. Hopefully, I'm not quite sure if it's going to be Saturday, Sunday or Monday. I'll keep you updated. Highlight show and the interview will go up later this week once I've done a little bit of editing. Obviously, if you want to submit your songs, link in the description. I'll put links and things like that. Google Forms and Discord are your ways. Like, share, subscribe, all the usual stuff. And we'll see you all next week. And we will play out with Gender and Loathing, mixed by Eric Simey, performed by Millennial Animal.
Gender
thanks for watching these incredible artists. If you want your music to be part of the show, just click the link in the description and you could submit either through Discord or via the Google form. It's as simple as that. If you enjoyed the show, then give a little like and a thumbs up, and if you subscribe and hit the bell, you will be notified about when the show goes live. See you next time. Bye!